Thank you very much for coming on, and I'll catch you later.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Okay, so that's stopped recording. I'll drop the call so you can go with your business. But thank you very much for that. And actually, if you just want to leave the call, and then I can chat with the others. Or I can drop. What? It's just if I drop the call, you'll keep chatting, and I'll feel bad. So you can leave whenever you want to leave.
How bad
basically.
can you make this Tarkecat?
Look,
Jesus
right.
Christ.
The thing is, right?
Outros are hard.
Outros are really difficult. Outros are hard.
Hang around for as long as you want.
I never thought you could mess it up more than last time.
See you later.
He actually left, dude. What the fuck? Tarky? He said no and left, dude. Holy shit.
So talking a little bit about the legions themselves then, how do you differentiate between the legions when playing? Like, do they feel vastly different, or are they just like reskinned?
Well, once you've got that character you were talking about earlier that can kill everything without thinking, then they feel the same because they're just bags of damage that doesn't, there's no gameplay at that stage. But when you're actually playing the game properly, the different legions have different monsters in them. They have different generals. The monsters use different skills. It feels different because there's kind of different flavors of how they're going to attack you, right? Like the Templar guys are going to be Templar, people running around with swords and so on, whereas the Val are potentially doing more interesting stuff. And so they do intentionally feel different because of the monster variety. But there's also a rarity skew, right? Like, as far as I'm aware, the Mariketh are one of the rarer ones. So because of this, if you have one of the rare ones showing up in one of your Monolith encounters while you're mapping, you totally want to get as many of those monsters freed as possible to increase the chances of the really valuable splinters as opposed to the comparatively less valuable splinters.
Would that mean then that there might be some more powerful jewels or more powerful loot in general locked behind the Mariketh as opposed to the Templar, or are they just more valuable by their scarcity and other people maybe wanting their things?
The best rewards come from the 5 army endgame map, right? Like, you can sit there doing 2 emblem maps repeatedly, and that's cool and everything, and you get some fun stuff, but 3 is better, 4 is much better, and 5 is amazing, right? You want to be doing 5, and 5 requires the rarest one, right? You can spam like 2 common ones repeatedly if you want to as a cheap way of fighting the endgame content, and many players like myself will do that as the hardest we can handle. But the actual good players like you guys are going to want to be doing the 5 army version because the rates of the rewards there get a lot higher, and that's bottlenecked by the hard to get splinters.
Have you intended them to be more like Watcher's Eyes, where they're always just random, or would there be a lower access one? I guess there's the Uber Elder and the normal one, which is the 2 and the 3 stat. Do you have something similar for this, where you have a higher quality jewel and a lower quality jewel for the for the more casuals to obtain?
The jewels, there are 5 jewels, right? They each do a specific thing that are entirely different to each other that affect the passive tree. For example, you've seen the Val one. I think we went into a lot of detail, but the Val one draws a radius around it and then corrupts all the passives within the radius by picking from random Val passives. There's Val Keystones, there's Val Notables, there's small Val passives. The only thing that differentiates the jewel that you find from the jewel someone else finds is a seed on it. But because of the fact that Val might be relatively common, I forget how common Val is compared to the others, but let's say it was common, there's going to be a lot more of those going around. The casual players are going to get to experiment with the Val stuff, whereas maybe the Mariketh jewel's doing some nuts things that are really complicated or really difficult to take advantage of, and that's quite a lot rarer.
Getting back to actually fighting the Legion, so you said earlier that like a good build deserves to be rewarded by tagging more enemies, killing more enemies, but is there any kind of protection for like small or contained maps on how the enemies will actually spawn in?
So you're talking about the problems that would happen with enemies spawning in on indoors areas where there's
like
quite
a
a lot
sewer
of
map,
terrain.
for example.
Yeah. So this is interesting. I actually made some notes on this when I talked to the team about it. Let me just bring those up. Right. Many of our POA team are preferring the indoors encounters because it stacks up a pile of monsters very close together and there's less traveling around. And so you kind of have a compromise here where the reward per time is slightly higher in the indoors ones, but the experience per time is higher in the outdoors ones, where stuff is spread around, but it's entirely possible for you to just tag a bunch of trash, basically. And the reason why this is the case is because the spawning equation we use for how to choose the things, like places down the generals and places down rewards and places down chests and so on, in a specific way that happens to cause clustering when there's a lot of size constraints. So anyway, the guys strongly believe this is the case, and that's good, because it would suck if the indoors ones were just worse.
And then another big question on that is, we've seen in the trailers that the armies fight each other. Do they do like meaningful damage? If I was slow, for example, would they like steal all my kills or?
So that's a good question. So they thematically fight each other, right? If you're not there on the screen, the monsters will hit each other. And if you are, then they'll fight you instead because you're the interloper. The problem is this actually wrecks client and server performance. And so the team wanted me to make a specific point that we're toning that down or removing the fighting of monsters because performance is key to us here. Well, it's cool that they do, right? Like, it's an awesome thing to see. But if that's going to cause performance problems, that's going fast. So we're hoping we can achieve some degree of thematic fighting, but as soon as it's causing issues for players, then it's not going to happen. As I think I mentioned in an FAQ, we're trying very hard to get as many on-kill things to work correctly, but there are some things that implicitly won't work here.
I think the main one which will make or break it will be Essence Drain Contagion will either be the best or the worst build if it works.
Yeah, I forget what the answer was on that one. I think it was a yes, but don't hold me to it.
Okay. Seems like a very big focus of Legion is letting players pick their own battle. What led you guys to wanting to design that much control into the League mechanic?
Players have asked for agency, right? Players have asked for risk and reward, and we're just trying it out, see how it feels. You know, if it's good, we'll do it more in the future. If it isn't, we won't. And it's nice in a way because a lot of the time you have a Path of Exile encounter that we've designed for you, and it's going to be too easy or it's going to be too hard, and they're not great experiences. So in this case, there's the ability to kind of control it, and this means there are lots of ways of going wrong, right? Like when I was first playing Legion, I was really cautious and didn't tag enough stuff. And then at the end of it, I think I totally should have killed more monsters and got more rewards. And so the next time I overcompensate to get an encounter that's way too difficult. And it's kind of fun working out how strong your character is. There's got a bit of a delve thing there in terms of being able to actually quantify the strength of your character at different points during your progress.
Just out of interest on a purely personal, not like company level, what's your opinion on the whole low-level farming thing we've seen over the last few leagues?
Some of my best experiences in action RPGs have involved doing something mindlessly. Like, I think I was quoted once as saying Path of Exile was a kind of game you just want to like play while watching TV or something. And people made fun of me for years for saying that. But I mean, like, you know, Mephisto farming or something in D2, where you just work out what you're doing and then just do that, and it's fun, and you kind of just repeat it. You've got it down, and it's something you don't need to think about. You can just be doing it while having a conversation with someone and not in any danger. That's a fun thing with action RPGs. I mean, of course, it's good to play properly as well, and I'll certainly, like, you know, pay attention 80% of the time, but it's really fun to have something that you know how to do that's going to give you some results and just spam that and get good rewards from it. So within moderation, I do enjoy kind of mindless game playing as well.
Are the zones static, or do they have like random mods attached as well?
We're not using random mods on the areas. So Domain of Timeless Conflict is the same, you know, in terms of the amount of mods affecting it. Of course, you know, the more emblems you put in, the better it is, right? You know, that's going to make it certainly a lot more valuable. As to why, it's just a choice we made. You know, we experimented with having random mods in Delve and Synthesis, and we decided not to here. You know, we'll see what happens. We can always do it again next league, have random mods on the areas. We feel in this case it's kind of unnecessary to do so. It's not like you're playing the Domain of Timeless Conflict repeatedly. Like, it's not a thing where you progress to it away from maps. It's a reward for getting a bunch of splinters, which involves normal mapping and playing regular content.
In the past, you've said you've had issues where streamers are doing a level of content that the viewers feel like bad that they can't replicate, like with the early beta, like pre-mapping systems. Do you think there might be a case where someone's watching someone like Nugiyen or Ziz doing the 5 armies all the time, and then you're getting players in a case of frustration also doing 5 armies, but then like failing epically?
So I love the idea of aspirational content. I watch you guys as streamers and I say, that's so cool, I wish I could do that. Then I work harder at playing the game in order to be able to. That's fine. And in this case, with the Battle of the 5 armies, as it were, it's bottlenecked by the acquisition of the items. It costs you 5 emblems, some of which are quite expensive to do. And so if a new player says, I feel I can do this because the streamers can do it, and then they waste their emblems, they're going to quickly learn not to have expectations that they can. So what we learned from introducing the map system is as long as it's expensive to try the hard thing, then it's okay.
People right now feel like there's too much stuff going on at the same time in the game. So, like, you know, you go into a map and there could there's just too many different possible things that could occur that you need to spend time on. So the thing we want to fix a little bit more is the fact that people feel like people want to be able to engage in the different systems like independently. Like, I'm going to like do some incursion stuff for a while, and then I'm going to do some betrayal stuff for a while, and that kind of stuff. So that is the thing that in 3.8 we will be looking into doing this as well. I'm not going to talk about what the system is, but that's like that is the complaint that we're looking to address in like the particular, and that is the thing we will definitely be doing in 3.8. We just don't want to talk about exactly how it will end up, but that's sort of like the thrust of what we're trying to fix here. So yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
Also, make sure to check out Jonathan's ExileCon t-shirt, the Solaris.
All right, yeah.
Oh,
The Solaris and Lunaris shirt.
Yeah.
Oh,
We only have one of those, and Jonathan's got it on.
cool.